We have taken more than 35 minutes extra than scheduled, but anyhow, धन्यवाद सब सदस्यों के लिए अपने जो समय पालना करने के लिए प्रयास किया है सब लोगों ने. National Council for Teachers Education Amendment Bill. Further consideration of the following motion moved by Shri Prakash Javadekar on 26th July 2018. On the day 26th July 2018, Dr. V.P. Watts has concluded his speech while participating in the discussion. Any other member desiring to speak may do so after that minister will reply. Please, members. Then now, Professor M.V. Rajeev Gowda. बैठ जाइए भाई. क्या मंत्री जी?
Further to amend the National Council for Teachers Education Act 19 has passed by the Lok Sabha be taken into consideration.
No, that has been already done, and then one of the speaker has concluded his speech also. So now it is Rajeev Gowda ji. Please, Shanti.
Thank you, Chairman, sir.
आपको टोटल 25 मिनट है, उसमें 3 लोग हैं. थोड़ा उसको ध्यान, आपका पार्टी के 3 लोग हैं, ध्यान में रख के आप जितना चाहिए.
ठीक है, नो प्रॉब्लम.
वही बेहतर हो गए. 2 बिल है हमारा सामने, छोटा बिल है. प्लीज बेयर विथ, डू समथिंग गुड एट लीस्ट ऑन दिस डे, प्लीज.
Happy to do something good, sir. Sir, I rise to speak on the National Council for Teacher Education Act amendment. So the original purpose of this act was to establish the National Council for Teacher Education with a view to achieving planned and coordinated development of the teacher education system around the country. What does this bill do? It grants retrospective recognition to various institutions and universities who've started teacher education programs.
Please, members.
But
what is this?
Did not.
You should sit in your seat or quietly withdraw if you want to go. You have no problem. And if you want to come back afterwards, you can come back. You don't want to return to the house, that's a different matter. Please take your respective seats. Thoda Shanti, honorable member is speaking.
Thank you. It basically grants retrospective recognition to various teacher training programs that had not been recognized by the NCTE. Now, this is a band-aid measure, a stopgap measure, which is aimed at ensuring that students who have gone through these programs are not penalized. But this is an opportunity wasted. Here you are taking the time of the House to bring in an amendment to the NCTE, and there's so much more that could have been done at this point to actually improve the functioning of the NCTE. And that's one of the major concerns that I have, because the NCTE is a very empowered organization which hasn't been functioning according to its full potential. So when you go ahead and grant this retrospective recognition, what is happening to the quality of that education? You're saying, well, so many institutes have come up, they're giving these degrees, so we need to make sure that people are not penalized, and therefore, regardless of the quality of that education, you are granting that recognition and they're moving on. So this stopgap attitude is something that unfortunately characterizes the Education Ministry's performance over the last few years. Where is that new education policy? We haven't seen that either. So these are all concerns that we have. When this government took office a few years ago, sir, they announced with great fanfare a Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya teacher training initiative. As far as my records show, out of the 188 programs that were promised, only 64. After 4.5 years, if you can only fulfill 1/3 of the promise in terms of teacher training institutes, where is the commitment to training and teaching and ensuring that our students are going to get what they deserve? So these are the concerns that we have right up front. So when you think about this whole process of teacher training, what we need is for the government to reallocate resources and put in much more resources into public funding of teacher training. What has happened today in India is that teacher training has become a private enterprise. Nothing wrong with private enterprise, except that in this case, a large number, I would venture that 70–80% of these institutes, if you look at how much they charge, it doesn't seem to me that they're actually functioning. They are probably just selling a certificate and allowing people to have a teacher training certificate and get a job. So if that is what is happening, then we are shortchanging not just the people who are getting those certificates, we are shortchanging a whole generation of students who will learn from these ill-trained teachers and who will therefore not allow India to achieve its demographic dividend, to achieve the potential that we have with our future generations. think about how much more we need to do. What else could you have done with this, Mr. Javadekar, in this bill? See, this teacher training and the recognition process is a 0-1. Either you recognize or you don't. But really, what you need is a gradation system. You know, you need some kind of a way of patting the back of those that are doing well, of penalizing those that are not doing well, of showing the way to improvement to many institutions along the way. So this is something that you probably can still do, perhaps in the rules or some, some other measure to ensure that the best institutions are recognized, that they become the showcases, and that they find a way to, that those best practices can be adopted in other institutions so that teacher training improves in quality across the length and breadth of the country. Find ways to track what actually happens in these institutions. If they have online libraries, if they have, see whether those particular books, see whether those materials are borrowed. Find some way to make sure that just after they get that certificate of approval, that they don't go to sleep afterwards, that they have to continue to do what they're doing. Find ways to track the graduates of these programs and what they do as they move forward. So these are all some of the major concerns that we have in this whole process. But ultimately, see, I'm speaking to you as a teacher myself. That's, before becoming a politician, that's all I did. I was a teacher. And as a teacher, I know how much of a challenge it is to stand in front of a classroom and, deliver that knowledge in a way that touches the student, that awakens their imagination, that really remains with them and provokes them to get passionate about a particular subject, to want to study more and do well in that field. So that requires tremendous amount of training, tremendous amount of experiential learning, and that requires a whole other approach to ensure that you don't just stick to online courses and certifications, but also you have people, labeled as master teachers who occasionally come and give demonstrations. You send teachers to sit in other people's classrooms and learn from them, and otherwise invest in this whole profession, because this is the fundamental profession that creates, what is the, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, we say, right? Why? Because Gurus are creating a whole new generation of students, of people who are going to go out there and do amazing things. So basically, attitude, skill, knowledge. Ask, that is the sort of thing that teachers need. And how do we do that? Think of teacher training as a multidisciplinary subject, not just something that's out there in isolation. Think about, there's a tremendous vibrancy in the education sector beyond the government. In Bangalore, I know so many people who are involved in, many of my people who have worked with me in my team have been from an organization called Teach for India, where talented youngsters go and work in schools which are very disadvantaged, and they help bring about a change by being so professional in how they go about things. My son Vaibhav interned with an organization called Meghshala, which provides online teaching materials to help government school teachers do a better job. There's so much out there in the social impact startup sector that it's really worth examining and finding ways to incorporate into the larger NCTE framework. So this is the kind of potential that exists out there. And then there's one more issue, which is the challenge. We've been doing manifesto consultations, and one on education, we had people telling us that those who have an MPhil, those who have a PhD, who are trying to come and now teach in a school, won't be able to because they have to go through 2-3 years of teacher training certification. Well, the basic point is that some kind of a bridge course needs to be provided for these people who otherwise have training, who have very, very advanced training. So that's again something that the NCTE can introduce going forward. So ultimately, I just would like to sum up. In the preamble, we talk of equality of opportunity. That's what we promise the people of India. We, the people of India, have promised ourselves that. Equality of opportunity will not come if we don't have equality of quality education, which can unleash that potential that each and every one of our citizens has. And therefore, think of NCTE instead of just a council that's going to certify and not certify. Turn it into a national campaign of teacher empowerment, so that teachers can go out there and really transform the future of India by touching every one of their students and unleashing that potential, that power, that passion that they can bring to use their brains in the best possible way. Mr. Minister, I urge you to take these suggestions forward in the best spirit.
Thank you.
And I commend this bill for passage.
Thank you, Rajeev ji.